Hello, my name is Kyle Bishop, and this is my presentation based on making changes for professional learning communities. This presentation will go over a few things. I'm going to start out with my vision statement. I'm going to show you a possible group discussion that you could have with your PLC colleagues. I will then go on to discuss a little background about the problem that I'm going to present to you, some strategies to alleviate this classroom issue, as well as an article, best practice research-based article that supports this initiative. And then I will go on to cover the logistics, including how I will collect data to prove that this initiative works, as well as some examples, next steps, and just an overall reflection on the process I've taken to create this professional learning community change. My vision statement that acts as the basis of my professional learning community is to be a teacher leader who collaborates with professional educators by providing them with best practice strategies in order to create literate, educationally invested students who will ultimately become active, positive contributors to the community. This begins with creating classroom environments based on a culture and climate of respect, inclusion, positivity, student collaboration, and a passion for learning. So what I have here is some discussion points that you could have with your PLC. If you are watching the video, you could certainly pause at this time to take some time to reflect on these questions. Do your students read independently in the classroom? When and why? Discuss one thing you find successful with independent reading. And discuss an area of your students' independent reading that might need a little bit of improvement. And then after you have this short conversation with your colleagues, you could certainly have individuals share out with the entire group so we can get that discussion going about independent reading in the classroom. Just a little background about myself. I teach 9th and 10th grade English at Valley High School in Louisville, Kentucky. We begin class with about 10 to 15 minutes of independent reading at least 3 days per week. Now, the reading material is self-selected by the students, and of course, teacher guidance is offered to make sure students are reading texts that are appropriate to their grade level abilities. Problem that I noticed during independent reading is that many of my students are not engaged or invested with the independent reading process. A couple questions that really come to mind for me are, how can I increase student engagement and investment, and what can I do to get more out of independent reading time in the classroom? My proposed strategy to alleviate this problem with independent reading is to incorporate readers' response journals into the independent reading process. I do believe that readers' response journals allow students to write reflections based on what they've read, make deeper connections with the reading, ask questions about the reading, discuss how the reading has changed their perspective, deeply analyze literary elements of a text, and reflect on what they've learned from the reading. This Reader's Response Journal idea is actually supported by Stairs and Stairs-Burgos in 2010 with the following quote reflected in the article on the next slide. When students were provided time in school to choose books, read them, and reflect on them, they became more interested in reading and connected characters and themes in their favorite texts to their own lives in meaningful ways. This supporting article, the title is The Power of Independent Self-Selected Reading in the Middle Grades by Andrea J. Stairs and Sarah Stairs-Burgos. Here in the presentation, I have a link to this article as well as an APA citation for the article, just in case you wanted to use it in the paper. According to Stairs and Stairs-Burgos, 2010, Reader's Response Journals can alter students' view of selves and personal decision-making, allows students to reflect on relationships with others based on relationships with characters in the story, and helps students develop a positive outlook toward reading. Just some logistics about how I will implement Reader's Response Journals into my classroom. I will provide students with time to write journal responses at least 2 times per week. I will also provide students with open-ended reading prompts following independent reading sessions. I will allow students to choose to respond to reading using a variety of strategies, including sentence starters and other scaffolding techniques. And I hope to make the process meaningful by providing students with the opportunity to discuss reading responses with other classmates, which could ultimately lead to a large group discussion, as well as feedback provided by the classroom teacher. Ways to collect data to try to gauge whether or not independent readers' response journals are working. I could conduct PLC interviews with my current PLC and other PLCs to see if the strategy is working in their classrooms. I could collect student work samples and use a basic rubric of not meeting, meeting, or exceeding expectations as far as the response that is expected of them in the journal. Also, just my own observations of student engagement. I could see if by implementing readers' response journals, if engagement goes up or down in the classroom. And I think it would also be very important to kind of survey the students, see what their opinions are on readers' response journals, and see if they think it makes independent reading a more meaningful process to them. My hypothesis, since this is a proposal, I do believe that incorporating readers' response journals into my classroom or my PLC practice will increase student engagement and investment during independent reading time. I also think that it will make independent reading more of an authentic learning experience for students. It will also help develop a positive culture for independent reading in the classroom. It'll allow students to view reading as a way to learn about themselves and others, learn about the real world, and also just make independent reading just overall a more successful process for my current PLC and hopefully school-wide. A couple examples that I have here. These are some sentence starters that you could provide to students so they can reflect on what was read. As you can see, a couple examples are one conflict presented in today's reading is, and then the students would just complete that sentence with their own ideas. And then I have things that, such as inferencing or prediction, as you see here at the bottom. One inference I can make about a character is, one prediction I can make from today's reading is, and you'll notice that by using these types of sentence starters, you can actually cover different standards, reading standards, such as making inferences, decoding the meaning of words, tone and mood, and also analyzing theme and conflict. Here's another example of a possible prompt that you could provide students for independent reading. This is a character interview prompt where students would choose a character from their novel that they would like to ask questions to. And they would create 2 questions to pose to that character in the text, and then they would answer each question from the perspective of the character in the story. So this would be a nice real-life connection of what they're reading, and also kind of hit that creative side of the thinking that we want students to use during independent reading. Some next steps I believe that will help take this initiative to the next level would be to research additional strategies to use during independent reading time. It's very important for teachers of reading to provide students with several different strategies, not just one. And it's also important to note that not one strategy is better than the other. It's just more important to have many strategies at your disposal. It'd also be very interesting to meet with other grade level PLCs to share the strategy, discuss their experiences with the strategy. Is it working? Is it not working? To get some feedback from other PLCs beyond my immediate PLC. And another great way to take this to the next level would be to visit some other secondary schools, observe some classrooms, talk to other PLCs, other teachers. What are they using during independent reading? What do they find as successful or unsuccessful during independent reading time? I've also completed a reflection here about this whole process, kind of what I've learned throughout this entire time. So this assignment has really helped me realize the deficits associated with independent reading at the secondary level. I found that many students are disengaged and doing a lot of what I refer to as fake reading. The goal is for students to become invested in independent reading so they can ultimately develop a positive disposition toward reading in the classroom. Our district has a big push for time that is dedicated for independent reading in the classroom. Therefore, it is imperative to discover ways to maximize the success by implementing a variety of independent reading strategies. Providing students with a multitude of strategies allows them to read through several different lenses. The strategies students are equipped with for independent reading can also be transferred to other reading practice across other content areas. I've also realized during this process that it's important for all parties involved in a professional learning community to be active researchers. When deficits stem from literacy instruction occur, PLCs must research and implement current best practice strategies to alleviate such deficits. If we aren't willing to change or improve our practices as teachers, then we're really not doing what's best for our students. Once this video is posted, I will include a link to YouTube so you can review it and access this easily from the PowerPoint presentation. And I've also, at the end of here, cited my reference to Stairs and Stairs-Burgos, that article that supports the ideas presented in this PLC plan. Thank you very much for enjoying the video, and I hope that you can apply this practice to your classroom. Thank you very much.